Alexandria Bennett Calloway stared at the grainy black and white image on her office desk, the ultrasound of a womb that would never cradle life. Tears blurred the stark medical report beside it. Diagnosis: premature ovarian failure, pregnancy probability, less than 1%. The irony wasn't lost on her at 34. She possessed everything money could buy except the one thing she desperately wanted. "Miss Calloway, your 10 o'clock appointment is waiting." Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, professionally detached. Alexandria wiped her tears, straightened her tailored Armani suit, and tucked the medical report into her desk drawer. Calloway Enterprises wouldn't run itself, regardless of her personal devastation. She'd built her tech empire from scratch, transforming a college dorm room startup into a multi-billion-dollar corporation that revolutionized sustainable energy. The business press called her the Iron Innovator. Today, that iron felt brittle enough to shatter. "Send them in," she replied, her voice betraying nothing of her inner turmoil. The board meeting dragged interminably, discussion of quarterly projections and market expansion blending into meaningless noise. Alexandria nodded at appropriate intervals, contributed the necessary insights, but her mind continually drifted to the sterile doctor's office where her dreams had collapsed 3 days earlier. "That concludes today's agenda," she announced finally. "I'll be taking the rest of the afternoon off. Forward anything urgent to my personal email." Her executive team exchanged surprised glances. Alexandria Bennett Calloway never took afternoons off, but no one questioned her. The privileges of power included privacy, at least. Driving her Tesla through downtown Boston, Alexandria impulsively turned toward the harbor. She needed air, space, somewhere to breathe beyond the suffocating perfection of her penthouse or the relentless ambition of her office. The Harborside Park was nearly empty on the cool autumn Tuesday, just a few mothers with strollers and elderly couples on benches, and a man with a small girl. Alexandria wouldn't have noticed them except for the child's delighted laughter carrying across the grass. The sound pierced her like a physical pain, a reminder of what she would never have. The girl was perhaps 4 or 5, her dark curls bouncing as she tried to launch a kite into the breeze while her father knelt beside her, patiently explaining something about wind direction. The kite, a simple diamond of primary colors, repeatedly rose a few feet before nosediving into the grass, causing fresh peals of laughter. The father wore faded jeans and a worn flannel shirt with rolled-up sleeves, revealing forearms corded with lean muscle. Even from a distance, Alexandria could see the tenderness in his interactions with his daughter. She watched, transfixed by their easy companionship, until she realized she was essentially spying on strangers. Embarrassed, she turned away and found a bench overlooking the water. "Daddy," the lady looked sad. Alexandria glanced up to find the little girl standing before her, dark eyes serious beneath wispy bangs. Her father hurried up behind her, kite in hand. "Lucy, we don't bother people," he said gently. "I'm sorry, madam, she's still learning about personal boundaries." "It's fine," Alexandria replied, strangely reluctant to end the interaction. "And she's observant." The man studied her briefly, and Alexandria felt oddly exposed under his gaze. He had kind eyes, deep brown with flecks of amber, set in a face weathered by sun and experience rather than age. She guessed he was in his mid-30s, though the shadows beneath his eyes suggested someone who carried substantial responsibility. "Are you sad because your kite won't fly too?" the little girl asked. "Lucy," her father began. "Actually," Alexandria found herself saying, "I don't have a kite." Lucy's eyes widened with horror at this injustice. "Daddy, she doesn't have a kite. Can we share ours?" The man's expression softened with affectionate exasperation. "You'll have to forgive Lucy. She believes kite flying is essential to human happiness." He extended his hand. "I'm Xavier Grayson, by the way, and this is Lucy, kite evangelist, Alexandria Calloway." She accepted his handshake, noting the calluses on his palm and the strength in his grip-working hands, not the manicured appendages of the executives she usually encountered. Recognition flickered in his eyes at her name, but he didn't comment on it. "Well, Miss Calloway, would you like to try your luck? This kite has been thoroughly defeating us all afternoon. Before she could formulate a reasonable excuse, Lucy had seized her hand. "I'll show you how, even though I'm not very good yet." Something about the child's earnestness melted a corner of the frozen grief in Alexandria's chest. I suppose one attempt couldn't hurt. She found herself following them to an open patch of grass, where Xavier handed her the plastic handle attached to the kite string. Lucy positioned herself as self-appointed instructor, tiny hands on hips. "Daddy says you have to feel the wind," she explained seriously. "And then you run really fast and let the string go longer when it starts to pull." Alexandria couldn't remember the last time she'd done something so frivolous as fly a kite. Probably not since her own childhood, before her parents' deaths had thrust adult responsibilities upon her at 16. "Like this," she gave the string a tentative tug. "You have to run," Lucy insisted. "Really, really fast." Alexandria glanced at her 4-inch heels sinking into the grass. Xavier noticed her predicament and grinned. Probably not ideal kite flying attire. "I didn't exactly plan for recreational activities when I dressed this morning," she admitted. "You could take them off," he suggested, then quickly added, "Your shoes, I mean, if you wanted to." The unexpected awkwardness in his manner was oddly charming. Alexandria found herself slipping off her Laubautins, the cool grass between her toes a forgotten sensation. "Ready?" Lucy asked, bouncing with anticipation. "As I'll ever be," Alexandria replied, and found herself running across the park, kite trailing behind her, the little girl's encouraging shouts propelling her forward. The kite caught a gust and soared upward. Lucy cheered. Alexandria felt a smile break across her face, her first genuine smile in days. She turned to share the moment with Xavier, and found him watching her with an expression that sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. For just a moment, she wasn't Alexandria Calloway, billionaire CEO mourning her broken future. She was simply a woman flying a kite on an autumn afternoon, finding joy in the simplest of pleasures. When the kite finally crashed into a tree 20 minutes later, Alexandria was breathless and laughing. Lucy declared the flight a tremendous success. "Thank you," Alexandria said as she slipped her shoes back on. "I needed that more than I realized." "Our pleasure," Xavier replied. "Lucy has a knack for finding people who need kite therapy." "Daddy, I'm hungry," Lucy announced. The kite adventure apparently concluded in her mind. "That's our cue," Xavier said apologetically. "It was nice meeting you, Miss Calloway." "Alexandria," she corrected him, surprised at her own informality. "Alexandria," he repeated, his smile reaching his eyes. "Maybe we'll see you around the park sometime." She watched them walk away, the little girl skipping beside her father, and felt an inexplicable urge to call them back, to prolong the brief respite they'd given her from her grief. Instead, she returned to her car and her carefully structured life, carrying with her the memory of laughter and the sensation of grass beneath her feet. Alexandria found herself returning to the harbor park the following week, telling herself it was merely for the tranquility, not in hopes of another chance encounter. When she spotted Xavier and Lucy by the playground, her heart performed a completely irrational little leap. Lucy saw her first, waving frantically and pulling her father toward Alexandria's bench. "We brought a bigger kite today," she announced. "It has a dragon tail," Xavier offered an apologetic smile. "I hope we're not interrupting your peace and quiet." "Not at all," Alexandria replied, surprised by her own sincerity. "I could use some dragon tail kite flying expertise." This time they spent nearly an hour together, the kite soaring impressively until a sudden gust snapped the string. After they recovered from the minor tragedy, Xavier checked his watch with a grimace. "We need to head out, Luce. I've got to get to work." "Already?" The disappointment in the child's voice was echoed in Alexandria's chest. "Sorry, kiddo, Mrs. Patel can only watch you until 6, and I can't be late again." Lucy's shoulders slumped, but she didn't argue, an indication this was a familiar routine. "Do you work nearby?" Alexandria asked, belatedly realizing how little she knew about this man who had twice brightened her day. "Downtown," Xavier replied vaguely. "I do maintenance at the Harrington building." The slight hesitation told Alexandria everything he'd recognized her name, knew her wealth and status, and was uncomfortable acknowledging the vast difference in their circumstances. Night shift. She asked, keeping her tone conversational. He nodded. It works with Lucy's school schedule, mostly. My neighbor watches her evenings when I work. Alexandria wanted to ask more about Lucy's mother, about their life, but sensed his growing discomfort. Well, don't let me make you late. It was lovely seeing you both again. Maybe we could exchange numbers, Xavier suggested, then quickly added, for kite flying coordination purposes, of course. Alexandria smiled. Of course, strictly professional kite consultation. They exchanged contacts, and as she watched them hurry toward the subway entrance, Alexandria acknowledged the strange lightness in her chest. For the first time since her diagnosis, she'd gone hours without thinking about what she'd lost. The text came 3 days later. Dragon kite repair complete. Lucy insists on a test flight tomorrow if weather permits. Kite consultants welcome. 3 p.m. Alexandria rescheduled a meeting with Japanese investors without a second thought. Over the following weeks, their park meetings became increasingly regular. Alexandria learned that Xavier was 36, a former construction foreman who'd taken the night maintenance job after Lucy's mother abandoned them 3 years earlier, leaving him to raise their then 2-year-old daughter alone. The night shift paid better and allowed him to be with Lucy during the day. She just left, Alexandria asked during one of their now routine coffee conversations while Lucy played within sight on the jungle gym. Xavier shrugged, but she could see the old hurt in his eyes. Melissa was never really the maternal type. She'd been unhappy for a while, said she never planned on being tied down with a kid. One day I came home and she was gone. Left a note saying she needed to find herself and couldn't do it as someone's mom and wife. That's terrible, Alexandria said, watching Lucy's carefree play. How could anyone walk away from her? It was rough at first, Xavier admitted. But honestly, we're better off. Lucy deserves someone who wants to be her mother, not someone who resents her existence. The words stung Alexandria unexpectedly. She would give anything to be Lucy's mother, to be any child's mother. The unfairness of it, a woman who abandoned motherhood versus one desperate for it, but denied by biology, felt like a cosmic cruelty. Xavier must have noticed her expression. I'm sorry. Did I say something wrong? Alexandria hesitated, then made an impulsive decision. No, it's just, I recently found out I can't have children. Premature ovarian failure, they call it. Less than 1% chance of conception. She hadn't told anyone besides her doctor, not even her closest friends. Yet here she was, confiding in a man she'd known for barely a month. Xavier didn't offer platitudes or awkward sympathy. He simply covered her hand with his. I'm sorry, Alexandria, that's a hard thing to carry. The simple acknowledgement broke something in her. The worst part is feeling like I've failed at something fundamental, like my body betrayed me. Your body hasn't failed at anything, Xavier said firmly, and you're not defined by your ability to reproduce. Look at all you've created in the world. Tech companies aren't the same as children, she said with a bitter laugh. No, he agreed, but they're not nothing either, and there are many ways to be a parent if that's what you want. Before she could respond, Lucy came running over, face flushed with excitement about a squirrel she'd spotted. The moment passed, but Alexandria felt something shift between them, a deepening of connection, a sharing of vulnerability that changed the tenor of their friendship. That evening, alone in her penthouse, Alexandria researched adoption and surrogacy options with renewed interest. The possibilities still seemed daunting, but Xavier's matter-of-fact acceptance had eased some of the shame she hadn't realized she was carrying. Their relationship evolved gradually. Coffee after kite flying became dinner when Lucy insisted Alexandria try her favorite pizza place. Alexandria introduced them to the aquarium, delighting in Lucy's wide-eyed wonder at the ocean tanks. When Lucy's school hosted a career day, Alexandria found herself explaining renewable energy to fascinated kindergartners. She began to see her city through new eyes, not as the strategic business hub she'd conquered, but as Lucy and Xavier's home, filled with modest joys she'd long overlooked. street musicians, farmers markets, community gardens tucked between buildings. Xavier, too, was a revelation. Beneath his unassuming manner lay a sharp intelligence and unwavering integrity. He read voraciously, could discuss politics and philosophy with nuanced understanding, and possessed a quiet confidence Alexandria found increasingly attractive. The first time he kissed her was after she'd attended Lucy's school play. The kindergartner had precisely one line as a tree in the environmental pageant, but Alexandria had rearranged a conference call with Singapore to be there. Afterward, dropping them at their small apartment in Dorchester, Xavier had walked her back to her car. "You didn't have to come tonight," he said quietly. "I know how busy you are." "I wanted to," she replied simply. Lucy was very convincing as vegetation. His laugh was soft in the evening air. "She's crazy about you, you know, talks about you constantly." "The feeling is mutual," Alexandria admitted. "She's extraordinary. Like her father." The teasing question carried an undertone of vulnerability that caught at Alexandria's heart. Despite their growing closeness, Xavier remained conscious of the gulf between them, not just financial, but experiential. He'd never said it directly, but she sensed his fear that she would eventually return fully to her world of corporate jets and global influence, leaving their park bench conversations behind. "Especially like her father," she confirmed, holding his gaze. Xavier stepped closer, his hand gently cupping her cheek. "I'm way out of my league here," he murmured. "Funny," Alexandria replied. "I was thinking the same thing." His kiss was tentative at first, then deepened with a certainty that made her breath catch. When they finally parted, the look in his eyes told her everything had changed. "I should go," she whispered against his lips. "Early meeting tomorrow. Will we see you this weekend?" The question carried more weight now. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. As their relationship deepened, complications inevitably arose. Alexandria's board members raised eyebrows when she began adjusting her schedule to accommodate school pickups. Paparazzi eventually caught wind of the billionaire's romance with the maintenance worker, leading to invasive headlines that infuriated Xavier and amused Alexandria, who had weathered media scrutiny since her company's meteoric rise. "Calloway's Cinderella Man," screamed one particularly tasteless tabloid, featuring a long lens photo of them holding hands in the park. "I've never worn glass slippers in my life," Xavier grumbled, tossing the magazine aside. "If anyone's Cinderella, it's me," Alexandria countered. "You and Lucy rescued me when I was at my lowest. You gave me back joy when I thought I'd lost it forever." 6 months into their relationship, Alexandria received a call from her doctor requesting a follow-up appointment. The news was unexpected. Her condition had stabilized somewhat, though pregnancy remained highly improbable. "There have been cases," the specialist explained, "where women with your condition have conceived naturally, though the odds remain very low. I wouldn't base major life decisions on this possibility, but I wanted you to have the complete information." Alexandria left the office in a daze of conflicting emotions. The tiny flicker of possibility felt dangerous hope could be more painful than certainty. She hadn't realized how much she'd begun to accept her diagnosis, to consider other pathways to motherhood. She drove to Xavier and Lucy's apartment building, needing their grounding presence. Using the key they'd given her, for emergencies or ice cream cravings, Xavier had teased, she let herself in, hearing Lucy's chatter from the kitchen. They were making dinner together, Lucy standing on a stool stirring something while Xavier chopped vegetables. The domesticity of the scene, so different from her sleek, empty penthouse, filled Alexandria with a sudden certainty. "I want to live with you," she blurted from the doorway. They both turned, startled by her abrupt entrance and announcement. "Alex." Lucy abandoned her stirring to launch herself into Alexandria's arms. Xavier wiped his hands on a dish towel, his expression a mixture of surprise and something deeper. "That's quite an entrance." Alexandria set Lucy down, suddenly self-conscious. "I'm sorry, I should have called first." "You never have to call first," Xavier assured her. "You're always welcome here, but maybe we should talk about the living together part after dinner, little ears and all." He nodded toward Lucy, who was already dragging Alexandria to see her latest art project. Later, after Lucy was asleep, they sat on the small balcony overlooking the neighborhood, mugs of tea warming their hands against the evening chill. "I went to the doctor today," Alexandria began. "Nothing bad, just a follow-up. She said my condition has stabilized somewhat." Xavier listened quietly as she explained the medical details and her emotional response. "I realized something important," she continued. "Whether or not I can ever have biological children doesn't change what I want most: a family, with you and Lucy." Xavier took her hand. "Alex, are you sure?" "This apartment is—" "I'm not talking about me moving in here," she interrupted. "Though I would in a heartbeat. I'm talking about us finding a place together, somewhere that could be ours. I don't need the penthouse or the address, I just need you two. You've thought about this?" He asked carefully. "I've thought about nothing else for weeks," she admitted. "I love you, Xavier, I love Lucy. I love our life together, messy and complicated as it sometimes is." "It would be a big adjustment for Lucy," he said, always the protective father. "And for you." "The media attention has already happened," she pointed out. "And Lucy is remarkably adaptable, but I understand if you're not ready or if you don't want." Xavier silenced her with a kiss. "I want," he whispered against her lips. "God, Alex, I want everything with you." They found a brownstone in Cambridge, close enough to Lucy's school that she could continue with her friends. Alexandria converted one floor into a home office, allowing her to be present for more family dinners and bedtime stories. Xavier reduced his hours at the maintenance job and enrolled in a building management certification program that Alexandria's company sponsored. "Not because you're dating the CEO," she insisted when he initially resisted. "Because you're qualified and we need good people." Their life together wasn't without challenges. Xavier sometimes still bristled at the wealth disparity, particularly when Alexandria's instinct was to solve problems by throwing money at them. Lucy occasionally tested boundaries, especially as she processed the significant changes in her life. Alexandria had to learn the art of compromise after years of autonomous decision-making, but the joy far outweighed the difficulties. Alexandria discovered that the maternal instinct she'd feared might be missing in her was fully intact, activated by Lucy's needs and trust in her. Xavier found that true partnership, eased burdens he'd carried alone for too long on a crisp autumn day. Exactly 1 year after their first kite-flying encounter, Xavier took Alexandria back to the harbor park. Lucy was conspicuously excited, practically vibrating with contained secrets as they walked to their bench. "I need to get something from the car," she announced with exaggerated casualness. "Daddy, you should ask Alex your question now." Alexandria raised an eyebrow as the little girl skipped away. "Subtle, isn't she?" Xavier laughed nervously, about as subtle as her father. He took Alexandria's hands, his expression growing serious. "This past year has been the most amazing journey. You've brought so much into our lives, not things or opportunities, though those matter too, but light and laughter and love." Alexandria felt her heart accelerate as he dropped to one knee. "I never thought I'd find someone who could love both me and Lucy so completely," he continued. "Someone who would see value in a night maintenance guy with a checkered past and uncertain future. But you did. You do." He reached into his pocket and produced a ring not ostentatious, but beautifully crafted, with a center stone surrounded by smaller gems. "The middle one is mine and yours," he explained. "The smaller ones represent Lucy," and he hesitated, "any other children who might join our family however they come to us." Tears blurred Alexandria's vision. "Xavier, Alexandria Bennett Calloway, will you marry me? Will you be my wife and Lucy's mother officially and forever?" "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, absolutely yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Lucy came running back with a small, gift-wrapped package. "I have something for you too," she announced, presenting it to Alexandria with solemn ceremony. "Daddy helped me pick it out." Inside was a delicate silver frame containing a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures: a tall man, a woman with long hair, and a small girl standing beside what appeared to be a house. Above them, written in careful kindergarten printing, were the words, "My family." "Turn it over," Xavier said softly. Alexandria flipped the frame to find an official-looking document attached to the back: adoption papers, partially filled out. Only if you want to, Lucy said, suddenly shy. Daddy says you could be my official mom, not just my heart mom. Alexandria gathered the little girl into her arms, overwhelmed by emotion. Nothing in the world would make me happier. 3 years later, Alexandria sat on a different park bench, watching Xavier chase their son Thomas through autumn leaves while Lucy, now 8, practiced cartwheels nearby. The pregnancy had been classified as medically miraculous by her doctors, that less than 1% chance manifesting against all odds. But Alexandria knew the real miracle had begun that first day in the harbor park, when a little girl noticed she was sad and a kind man offered her a kite. They had given her a family in every sense of the word, proving that the richest life wasn't measured in corporate acquisitions or bank balances, but in the everyday magic of belonging. As Xavier returned to the bench, slightly winded from toddler chasing, Alexandria leaned against his solid warmth. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" he asked, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "For making me smile again that first day, for everything since." His kiss was gentle, familiar now, but no less thrilling. "Best decision I ever made," letting Lucy interrupt a beautiful woman on a park bench. "Best decision we ever made," Lucy corrected, flopping dramatically onto the grass beside them. "It was totally my idea," Alexandria laughed, heart full beyond measure. "I stand corrected." "Thank you, Lucy, for your excellent judgment in sad ladies." As Thomas toddled back to join them, Alexandria Bennett Calloway Grayson, still a billionaire CEO, now also a wife and mother, gathered her family close, knowing she possessed the one fortune that truly mattered.